Steed, and welcome to A Seat at the Table. This is actually a news special. There's a verdict coming down, and I have three phenomenal guests. I have attorney Kelly White, who clearly is qualified, but also inspired to really seek justice for the Black community. And of course, Jay Wardell, the warrior lawyer extraordinaire, who really clings to the idea that the possibility that propaganda to destroy, deny, and what's my last D?
Discredit.
Discredit is part of what we've seen in this entire trial. Dr. Graham, tell us what we are, where we are historically in the treatment of Black people in the absence of justice. So I guess we'll go to my dearest, Attorney Kelly. We're waiting. We're on the moment. How does the Black community and how do Black mothers and sisters and aunts, what are they anxious about?
Well, we have a special kind of prayer and feeling in the Black community as mothers of sons. And it makes us pray differently because we have to be concerned about our children's safety every time they leave the house, not only in our own communities because of marginalized people, poverty, crime, but also from the very people who are supposed to protect us, right? And we have to have the talk with our sons. I was explaining that to some of my colleagues, white colleagues, who didn't even understand that. We have to have that talk. Since this trial's been going on, I've been calling my son who's away in college at Ohio State, and I've been calling him like, hey, remember what we talked about, right? You know what happens when you get stopped, especially since Dante Wright's shooting. So we are praying. I mean, I just tweeted earlier, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, please give us justice, please, because what is it going to say to our sons and what is it going to say to our family and our community if we watch this modern day lynching and they come back with an acquittal? Like, what kind of hope are our children going to have to feel that they can be protected or that their lives matter at all? Like, it'll be like open season on young Black men. Especially, I mean, this happens to women too, as Wyndal can definitely attest to. He's got a famous client. But our men are just, I'm fearful for them all the time. And they fear. You should not have to be in fear when you see the police pull behind you, when you know that you are driving license and you are not doing anything illegal and you're doing everything you're supposed to do. But even police officer friends of mine tell me that they even feel fearful when they're not in their own jurisdiction and they see lights. I am praying that this jury understands all of that they know the stakes are so high and that they believe their eyes, basically, that they believed what they saw and what they felt. Because I don't think there's anyone who saw it unless they were hateful or racist. I don't know anyone else who saw it and did not feel that that was an injustice.
I'm not sure. I would probably beg to differ. I think people are afraid, particularly in our community, that we've seen people snuffed out, shot in the back, and still debate, Attorney White. So I'm with you in my compassion, but I know people don't always want to accept the fact. I think there are probably 50%, if not maybe 70% of Black people who really weren't ready to protest. I think if the young people hadn't taken to the street and really moved out on George Floyd, there were a lot of people that were more comfortable sitting at home saying, I don't know why that happened to him. I think there would have been more Confederate statues still up. There was a movement asunder that nobody can anticipate based on that. Where do we find ourselves with the color of the jury? What do you think that did? Because I was a little bit surprised. I don't know if you gentlemen and ladies were actually surprised by the fact that they had found some Blacks in Minnesota on that jury.
The fact that they found blacks, the fact that they found blacks. I know I visited Minnesota sometime before, Minneapolis, no doubt, during a bar conference. And I ain't seen that many black people. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just didn't see that many, but everything changes. There used to be a time in some places here in Maryland where you would never see African Americans, but they made their way onto the juries, and sometimes they make up the majority of the jury. Minnesota, in this case, there are 4 African American men, 2 women of color, and 6 African American, and 6 white and white men and women. So this is a good makeup. And so you're not going to just steamroll over these African Americans, because we always carry our race on our shoulders, always. No matter what we do, where we go, no matter who you are, what you are, where you are, you carry it with you, especially in situations like this. So I don't expect that they will be overpowered. And the fact that they came in so quickly means that everybody agreed to something. And I don't think that's going to be an acquittal at all, because there were too many nuances. They'd be back there deliberating, fighting, and all this other stuff. There weren't even any questions asked, as you pointed out, Kelly.
Right.
So if you don't have any,
by the way, right now.
What'd you say?
They're opening
right now.
What's going on?
The judge is on.
Delivered right now as we speak.
Oh man, so I want to see this. I don't know if I should use my cell phone or my television.
Count 1, guilty.
Came through
Already.
Are you serious, Munson?
I am, brother. Why would I not be serious?
Okay,
I got
all right.
2 of my
Is
brothers
the
and
answer count?
sister on here right now.
Count 1?
Count 1, guilty.
All right.
Count
That's all of them.
second-degree murder?
If you got count 1, you got all 3.
Count 2,
Second-degree
third
murder was
degree,
count 1,
guilty.
right?
If you got second degree, you got all 3 of them. That's a
You got
flush.
all 3.
That's what I told. What did I tell?
Praise God.
Y'all better listen to me.
You better listen to me.
Listen to me. I know what I'm talking. This is what I do.
Praise God. You are.
I know
Count 3, guilty.
I know what it is.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Thank God.
So the attacks upon the African Americans are going to get worse. Just as we saw it in O.J. Simpson, we'll see it today. We have to be prayed up. We have to be keep our head on the swivel.
Yep.
We have to be able to protect ourselves, and we have to come together. We have
Absolutely.
to definitely come together because some people, although a lot of people resigned to this one and were willing to let Derek Chauvin stand on his own. But the attacks, even before the verdict hit, I mean, it was almost daily or at least weekly that another officer was killed. I mean, I'm not another officer, another individual was killed.
Yeah. I mean, it just increases because the level of hatred and fear and I'm just, you're right though. The attacks will increase in certain areas.
Dr. How do you think the community now will see this historically? What will we do? And how does this movement continue for social justice? Because I think we've got to continue this fight. I think the legislation moving through, what's new and how should we move as a community? Because I think many need to be instructed, obviously to protect ourselves, but what is this saying right now for history to those who have watched the opposite happen?
Change is coming. Yeah. Change is coming, whether you like it or not, it's coming. And justice is going to roll like thunder. And, people just need to rethink society, rethink a world of inequality and inequities, and start to think about equality, justice, and ultimately love and kindness. Because all of these things could have been avoided with mere kindness, with mere love, with compassion, with respect for humanity, the basics. And at some point in time, I know we're in the virtual world and seems like reality gets away from us, but we need to go back to the basics. And I'm not talking about necessarily African Americans exclusively. I'm talking about as a society. We need to go back to respecting one another. We need to go back to civility.
I agree with you.
And I can go on down that route, but as African Americans, we need to stick our foot in their ass and mash the gas. That's what we need to do. We need to keep the pressure coming.
We need to keep pressure coming.
Keep the pressure up. Don't let up. Don't Don't retreat, reload, you know what I mean? And keep coming forward until we reach the promised land, because we're not there. That's just the battle. That's not the war. The war is yet to be fought. So we
That's
got to
right.
continue to win these battles, keep pushing, keep fighting, don't let up. And that's how I feel about it.
And thank God for the young people. Like you said, you're right. The young people took to the streets. They were not giving up. They, you know, like the meme says, this, you know, we're not my grandfather. You know, this ain't your grandfather's civil rights movement. They are unrelenting, and they are angry, and they are pushing forward, and they're not going to give up. Yeah. And it's really changed the conversation, because, you know, now you've got a lot of, you know, with the broad range of hip hop and social media, you have a lot of young white folks who have really stepped up to become allies in this whole fight. And they're changing the thoughts and the patterns and the language and of their grandparents and their parents, and calling them out. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but calling them out on social media. Yeah, so I'm so thankful for this new generation. This, you know, there's many other things that I would love to see them do more of, like, you know, civility and stop cursing so much, and love be more respectful.
I'm sorry.
They're not fearful though. They are fearless.
So I will say this too, though. We talk about the young people who are engaged, but the reality is that even in the 60s, your grandfather's civil rights movement, he was that age at that point.
That's right.
Young people have always led these movements. So that's not what's new. I think what you pointed out earlier that's new is that you've had this growing alliance amongst young people, a generation that has been able to absorb the actual fruits of the civil rights movement and now trying to take it somewhere else. So I think that that's one of the things. I think the other thing too that we have to really be mindful of is that behavior doesn't always change just by will and morality. Laws, policies also have to be in place to change behavior. And so I think that this is an opportunity for us to really push for things like the Emmett Till anti-lynching legislation. I think this is our time too to really fight back against what you just saw happen in Florida, the passing of an anti-riot law that really is an anti-protest law. So we got to make sure that we don't lose sight of those things, that after we hit the streets, that we also still have to hit the boardrooms. We still have to go and hit the courtrooms and be present. And I know that the lawyers here definitely understand that, because they do it every day. And the last thing I want to say is that we can take just a moment to rejoice, because I want you to imagine the fact that what we saw in this case was an electronic version of a lynching postcard.
That's right.
When you saw Chauvin leaning on his head in that way with his hands pocket, you saw blue bravado at its worst.
Yes, yes.
And this says to me that at least in Minnesota, it said not today. And I think that we need to use this energy so that this never happens again.
And I hope it's not anymore ever. You got some states who are passing progressive laws and removing qualified immunity. And then you got others, like you said, trying to do anti-protest laws. We really have to, and I hope that this doesn't make people become complacent, like, oh, okay, we won this. No, the fight continues. Like you said, the fight continues. Now we have to really push. We need to build on this momentum to push for change.
Right. And I'm glad this victory is good for the young people, because if you talk to young people, they feel as though we've been taking a lot of losses, and there's never a chance to rejoice. There's never a chance to smile or to be happy about what's taking place with our justice system. Well, this is another feather in our cap, and it's a small victory because there are so many others who did not get this type of justice. I mean, they got and no matter what the verdict is today, no matter how much money was given, George Floyd is not coming home tonight. He will not be there for Memorial Day or Mother's Day. He will not be there for the 4th of July. He will not be there for any of the holidays that we all have come to celebrate. And I guarantee you that his family will give all the money back and take the verdict, and you know, not even have the verdict if they could bring George back. And nobody's going to be able to do that. But in his absence, and because we cannot reincarnate those who have transitioned on, he's left his mark. And as his daughter said, he changed the world.
He did.
When you think of that, Attorney White, what do you think about this prosecutor? They got a brother. He clearly was ready. But what do you think about his presentation? Was he methodical? And if you both would comment on his style and his approach to this case, what did you think about it?
You talking about the lead prosecutor, Jerry Blackwell, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I thought that he did a good job. In fact, I thought that this was one of the best prosecutions that I've ever seen against a police officer, for sure. It was very thorough. It was very methodical. They kept to their theme. I loved the very last sentence that he left with the jury. I remember tweeting it. You know, they told you this untruth about George Floyd dying because he had a big heart, when you've seen the evidence, and the reality is that he died because Derek Chauvin's heart was too small. I thought that was very powerful. And he wasn't overly dramatic, which is what they would have expected from a brother in this kind of case. I thought he did a good job. I thought they really anticipated all of the arguments, and they truly anticipated where the defense was going to go, and they laid it all out. I mean, they were knocking down every argument before the defense even started. I did have someone tell me that, a layperson who said that they felt like the rebuttal wasn't strong enough, but obviously he got the job done. I thought the last sentence was strong. I'm very dramatic in my trial when I'm in trial. I'm very so. He was a little more stoic, but I thought he did a good job. What did you think, Wyndal?
One word: blacknificent. That brother was blacknificent in there. I mean, I loved every bit of it. And in terms of his style, you have to adjust to your audience. And he, being very familiar with Minnesota, being who he is in the position that he holds, I'm sure he's had a number of trials where, they don't go for the fire and brimstone. We come from Maryland, the old line state, part of the Bible Belt. So, we can get down, we can do our thing. We can be folksy. We can take them to church. We can do all those things because it's appreciated. It's respected. People, it makes them comfortable. But in Minnesota, the Midwest, where, as I thought, at least, the African Americans, I didn't think their population was that great, but nonetheless, you have to know your audience. And this man, you could tell, they both were familiar with their audience because no one brought the fire or the brimstone. And it seems like they were careful not to, because maybe that doesn't play in Minnesota. And whatever the formula was, it was on point and it did the job that I always knew. And Munson, you tell them what I said, because I told you from the very beginning. I always knew this was going to be a flush. And I knew if they got the first verdict, then everything else, they're going to get that. It just comes with it. So no, kudos to the Minnesota State Prosecutor's Office. It is one of the best prosecutions of a police officer that I've ever witnessed in my entire life.
But wait a minute, Wyndal, it wasn't the Minnesota State Prosecutor's Office.
I'm sorry,
it was Keith Ellison, Attorney General, special prosecutor, who put this team together. Let's give that man his props.
Okay, give Keith his props. Okay,
yeah.
So Keith handpicked these prosecutors?
Yes.
Okay.
He put this together. So because we were on with Naima last week, and they were pushing for the governor to take it out of the prosecutor's hands, because the first set of charges were like they were setting it up for failure. Right. Talking about his size and all that in the charges. Like, you prosecute, why are you doing that? So they took it. The governor actually took it out and gave it to Keith Ellison, and Keith Ellison put together this team. And it was they did an excellent job, like excellent.
So then we need to include Keith Ellison with the kudos and the accolades in this case. And I was remiss, because Keith Ellison played a great part. If he put this team together, man, I mean, they did a fantastic, phenomenal job. And I think it showed the world once again that Black lawyers are leading the charge when it comes to justice. And
absolutely,
that's our bailiwick, man. That's where we thrive. And so again, I couldn't be more proud of that brother, Jerry Blackwell. I even know his name. Probably prosecutor, if they're not the actual district attorney, the only prosecutor, I'm talking about Baltimore City too. I actually remember his name and put him on the mantle with the likes of Johnny Cochran and Willie Gary and some of those.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Is
He
that
did an
what
excellent
Dr.
job.
Graham?
I'm sorry.
I was asking Dr. Graham, is that what he saw?
What I saw, I mean, I think that I agree, because one of the things that he did do is that he soothed that jury in the way that he's talked to them, almost like they were at the kitchen table.
Mhm.
And so sometimes you have to do that to connect with people in a different way. And I agree that we didn't need a preacher,
Not there.
right?
Not there. Nope.
Somebody's going to keep these facts in front of you in a way that allows you to trust them, right? So he took those walls down quickly. And to be honest, not to say that things couldn't have gone another way, but there's a lot of this is a layup in some ways if it's done right. And I don't mean in the sense that, juries don't always go their own way. But this type of video evidence, you're not going to get every day. This was something, as I said before, you could see that sort of bravado right there in front of you. And even the eyes of Chauvin, if you look at them, as there's a total disconnect from the lifeless people. And so he was able to convey that, I think, in a way that was not just soothing, but also really showed that this is really about the evidence today. There is no showboating. This is about what actually happened.
Right.
Absolutely.
I thought there was one thing that he did that kind of got everybody in the mood.
You say got him in the mood, huh?
Yeah, he truly created this whisper effect.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I would say more so than even that, he had a whispering thing kind of going on. Like y'all probably not used to hearing Black truth. We usually gonna whisper it to you. So we're gonna let you just kind of begin to accept this and seep into your mind, because you're not used to Black folk talking to you. But I'm gonna read you this story. This is not a good story, but I'm gonna let some other people come that are gonna be white and let you know, because I'm gonna be the whisperer in this particular trial. I'm not gonna ever really speak to it, and that's what I saw. Was the whispering of the truth, and how sometimes white people really don't want to be confronted with their truth at all. And can you just give it to me with a little bit of medicine? And he said, well, maybe not medicine, but I'll try the truth. Right. And I'm going to whisper it to you in a way that never makes you uncomfortable about the job that I'm asking you to do. And I thought that was one of those historical kind of ideas that as a Black man, I am all of the professional that you need, but I'm going to allow your soul to speak to you while I tell you what the truth had to say.
Man, you should have been the lawyer.
No,
that was nice.
I was listening to what you were saying, because the setup was more on how many white people he could get in front of you to say, by no means did drugs. You had white women, and we know oftentimes we can't believe what's happening when they are in Central Park. Right. Calling the police.
Understood. Say less.
So we know that fact. Mm-hmm. But so you needed a whisperer who could actually do that.
I like that you said.
I like that too.
We're gonna take. This is gonna be a give and take relationship, Munson, because I'm writing that down.
We're gonna incorporate that.
Hey, but that was kind of what I saw in his presentation, and the truth on how it was that storyteller and brought in that mysticism. Because it's a special moment. I think it was a preacher. It was one of those preachers that went to a Presbyterian church. Right? I've got to get you excited about it, but don't jump out that seat. Right. And there's going to be some boring hymns. But I'm going to let you know like this. And I think that was the thing that he was able to get that. The other thing was a real puppet master. at the end of the day, he was able to move mouths that we typically don't see white people say. We typically don't see police bring the truth with them against their own and literally stand up. The other thing is, I'm going to ask all three of you, the Black police chief walking in, where will he work if he leaves Minnesota?
I was thinking the same thing, Munson. I was thinking the same thing because he not only did he step over the blue line, but he trampled it. He trampled
He crushed it.
Yeah, but I think he stood up for all decent police officers. And at some point in time, when I told you policing is changing, we did this in the pregame. I was telling you how everything changed. All the professions have changed, including the legal profession. Policing is changing as well. And so police officers have to be unafraid to speak up when they see wrong. If you see something, say something. And
right.
And so, because all police officers fit the description. They all look the same, and when we see them, we feel the same. And it could be a good one from a bad one. We don't know the difference because they wear the same uniform.
Right.
So you need to have good and decent people first, police officers second, who will stand up for what's right. And I think we saw that in this trial.
Absolutely. And I think he can go to any chocolate city. He certainly can come to Gary, Indiana.
Well,
Atlanta, Georgia, I'm sure. You know what I mean?
Well, he has public trust now.
Be more.
Well, he's got the public trust because him taking that stand that I've never seen.
Right.
So him taking that stand generally
questions though, a lot of cities still don't welcome truth. And a lot of unions don't welcome truth. I think just as many unions will have issue with a truth teller and really fighting this norm. I don't believe that.
Oh yeah, Chicago would fight them tooth and nail.
I'm more on the conversation when you said, well, you need to be ready. And I think that they're unused. These people have gotten very clear issues with even a Congresswoman, Maxine Waters, coming in saying, hey, y'all.
Keep up the pressure. What?
Yeah, keep it up.
They understand protest
like this is going to go our way. Look, ladies, Kelly is great. I have to bow out if I'll try to log back.
I think we can close her out. I think we've all had exactly the prayer that we wanted answered.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming to a seat at the table to be a part of this historic moment. We're going to get this up, edited. And then if you would each just do an op-ed when you get a moment. So we can at least talk about the vision that you have for the future of our community and why it literally is a verdict for future generations to be inspired to understand that they have to be activists until we're all free.
Yes, 100%.
I'm Munson Steed. This is a seat at the table with the phenomenal attorney Kelly White, of course, the lawyer warrior J. Wardell Gordon, and Dr. Graham. You do not have to be in the streets, but you must be in the struggle. I'm Munson Steed for a seat at the table.